Good morning, all. We are now going to discuss about the input tax credit. And in the previous lecture, I described you what is the input tax credit, and we also discussed certain eligibility criteria for availing the ITC benefit, and also the basic conditions that is required for taking the benefit of ITC. Now we'll move ahead with in detail discussion of ITC. So let us take up the reversal of ITC in case of non-payment of consideration. Now, this point will briefly describe you that if in case the payment has not been done in reference to the supplies that is being received by the recipient, then there is the condition, there is a clause that if payment is not done, then the ITC has to be reversed, and in that case the liability for the recipient will increase, and if the payment is not done, then the benefit that he has taken for ITC, that will also be reversed. So as the first point says here, where a recipient fails to pay to the supplier within 180 days. So 180 days is the time limit within which the recipient needs to make the payment for the supplies to the supplier from the date of issue of invoice. So 180 days will be calculated from the date of issue of the invoice by the supplier. An amount equal to ITC availed by the recipient shall be added to his output liability, which simply means that if the recipient has already taken the benefit of such ITC benefit of such supplies, and he has not made the payment to the supplier within 180 days from the date of the issue of the invoice by the supplier, then the amount of ITC that he has claimed will be added back to his output tax liability. So now his output tax liability will increase by the amount of ITC that he has availed, for which the payment has not been made by the recipient to the supplier within 180 days from the issue of the date of the invoice, right? Along with interest thereon. And also, the tax liability will increase with the amount of ITC that he has availed, and also he needs to pay the interest on the pending amount, and the interest will be, as you can see under the first subpoint here, such person shall be liable to pay at the rate 18% per annum. This interest will be applicable at the rate 18% per annum, and how much amount of interest he needs to pay, that will be decided for the period starting from the date of availing credit, the date at which he has availed the ITC benefit, he has taken the ITC benefit on such supplies, till the date when the amount added to the output tax liability. So which means that this 18% interest will be charged at the rate from the date from which he has taken the ITC benefit, he has availed the credit on such supplies, till the date when the amount has been added back to the output tax liability of the recipient. So whatever is the gap between these two dates, on such days, number of days, the interest has to be paid by the recipient, and that will be 18% per annum. So suppose if ITC claimed is, let's say 50,000. 50,000 ITC has been claimed, and 18% is the interest rate which is applicable. And suppose the date on which he has claimed the ITC, he has availed the ITC benefit, and the date when the output liability of the recipient has been increased. The number of days, effective number of days is, let's say, 190 days, right? So on those 190 days at the rate 18% per annum, the interest will be charged. So 190 days divided by 365 at the rate 18%. So that will be the effective rate of interest, that is 18%, which will be charged as per the number of days involved between these two events. So I think now you are clear with it. The whole situation says that the ITC will be reversed if the non-payment of consideration is there, which point simply says that if the recipient fails to make the payment to the supplier within 180 days from the date of issue of the invoice by the supplier, in that case, if the recipient has already availed the credit of ITC on the supplies, then that ITC will be reversed back, that benefit will be reversed back, and it will be added back to the output tax liability of the recipient. And also, for this effective period, the tax, along with the tax rate, the interest will also be charged at the rate 18% per annum. And for how many times, how much time period will be involved, that will be decided upon the two events. One, the date on which he has taken the credit, and second, till the time the amount has been added back to the recipient's output liability. So during the number of days will be counted as per this condition. Effectively, 18% rate of interest will be charged along with the reversal of ITC if the payment has not been made within this specified time. Then second point it says, the supplies made without consideration specified under Schedule 1 shall be deemed to have been paid. Now, if you remember, we all have talked about the Schedule 1 supplies, which will be considered as a supply even if it is without consideration. So any sort of supplies which is covered under Schedule 1 and payment has not been received, it is assumed that the payment has been received, because these all are the type of supplies which will be considered as a deemed supply, which is without consideration. So there will be no payment which needs to be received against such supplies. So in that case, it is assumed that the payment has been received. Then next it talks about that the recipient shall be entitled to avail credit of input tax on payment made by him towards value as well as tax payable thereon. Yes, of course, we all know this. The credit of input tax will be applicable to the value and the tax payable thereon. Then next it says the condition of 180 days does not apply in the case of 180 days condition will not apply first in the case where the supply is under the reverse charge mechanism. Yes, of course, because here the recipient itself is liable to pay the taxes. So in that case, this 180 days, he needs to make the payment, and he is the person responsible who needs to make the who needs to pay the tax to the government. So under such circumstances, this clause of 180 days is not applicable. Then second, we talked about the deemed supplies, which is without consideration. So in that case, this is another situation where this clause of 180 days of payment does not apply, because in the second point, there is no transaction of payment. Then next, no ITC. As you can see here, no ITC if depreciation is claimed on tax component. This is under section 16, subsection 3. So now what is happening here, that you all must be knowing that what happens if you purchase a particular asset for the business. You claim depreciation on that, right? So depreciation you claim because you get the benefit of that depreciation under the income tax. So now the GST Act says that if you are claiming if you are having the benefit of depreciation under the Income Tax Act, then you cannot claim the input tax credit for such assets. So it is simply clear that you have to take the benefit on a particular asset either under the Income Tax Act or under the GST. So if you are claiming the depreciation benefit under Income Tax Act, you are not eligible to take the benefit under input tax credit. Or if you are not taking the benefit under income tax, then you can very well take the benefit of this input tax credit. So what works here is that suppose you have purchased a machine, let's say planting machine for 10 lakh rupees, and for that you have paid, let's say GST at the rate 18%. Suppose you have paid 1,80,000 as a GST. Now, if in the books you are showing the total value of the machine as let's say 11,80,000, which is cost of the machine plus the depreciation plus the GST that you have paid on that. So if you have shown in the books the price of the machine as 11,80,000, so obviously you will be charging depreciation on 11,80,000. So you are taking the benefit of that GST paid under depreciation as per the provisions of the Income Tax Act, right? So you cannot claim that input tax benefit under GST. But if you are not showing the value of goods under the GST that you have paid in the cost of the machine, then in that case you can claim the input tax credit for such asset. So either you take the benefit of goods that you have purchased as the capital goods. In that case, either you can take the benefit under Income Tax Act or you can take the benefit under GST. You cannot have both the things together. I hope I'm clear with this point. Then coming to time limit for availing input tax credit, that is section 16, subsection 4. Now it is quite clear here. You just need to be focused on certain points, that the time limit for availing the input tax credit here is the date which is earlier of the two. Two dates are effective here. One, the due date of furnishing the returns under section 39 for the month of September. As we all know very well that by September you need to furnish your returns, right? So by 30th September, that is the due date for furnishing the returns following the end of the financial year to which such invoice or debit note pertains. Like if for the financial year 1920 that will end on 31st March, for that the final date, the due date for furnishing the returns is 30th September. So 30, till September is the last month for filing the return, right? Now, if you are filing the annual returns, that will be the first day. The last date, the last you can say due date for furnishing the returns for GST is one date. Second date is that when you are filing your relevant annual returns. So suppose if let's say 30th September is the last date for filing the returns, right? And you have filed your return on 31st August. So uh, 30th September is the first point which is relevant here, and furnishing of the relevant annual returns, it is 30th August, let's say. So two dates are there, 30th August and 30th September. 30th September is the due date, which is the final date, last date, and let's say 30th August is the date you have filed your return. Both days, the earlier of which falls, right? So out of these two dates, whichever is the earlier date will be the time limit for availing the input tax credit. So any tax benefit that you have taken between the financial year, the benefit of which you can claim as per the earlier date out of these 2 points. So this is the time limit for availing the input tax credit. Now, next point it says if debit note is issued in respect of an invoice, subsequently in the next financial year, the date of invoice will be relevant and not the date of debit note in determining the time limit. Now, this point clearly says that if debit note in reference to any invoice has been issued in the next financial year, like supplies has been done in let's say February, and the debit note is being issued in the next financial year. Let's say debit note is getting issued in May. May will become the next financial year. Now, what will happen in such circumstances? Under this situation, the date of invoice will be considered as relevant. Date of invoice means that the invoice which has been generated for the original supply, that will be considered as the date for the debit note also. So the date on which this debit note has been issued will be ignored, and the date of invoice will be considered as the relevant date, and accordingly the time limit will be decided. So in this situation where the debit note, where the supply has been made in another financial year and the debit note is being issued in the next financial year, in such situation, the date of debit note will be ignored and the date of invoice will be considered as the relevant and will be considered for determining the time limit for availing the input tax credit. I hope this point is clear. Then one more point, it says, under section 18, subsection 2, in special circumstances like new registration or voluntary registration. Now, this point clearly says that if you are a newly registered person or if you are under the voluntary registration, then the registered person shall not be entitled to take input tax credit on any supply of goods or services or both to him after the expiry of 1 year from the date of issue of tax invoice. So there is a, you can say this is a benefit given to the person who are newly registered or who are under the voluntary registration, that for them the 1 year time limit is there from the date of issue of tax invoice. So in this situation, the financial year will not be considered, but they will be considered as per the this date from the date of issue of invoice. So 1 year from the date of issue of invoice will be considered as a new registration, will be considered as a time limit for the new registration or the voluntary registration uh, for the registered persons. So I hope all these points are clear with you all. We'll take up more details. The next topic that we are going to take is the apportionment of this input tax credit. That is another very important topic. Do join for the next session. Thank you.